Hey there, YouTube. We're going to jump into our Ukrainian update, kind of Wagner / Ukraine, actually. So this is going to be the Wagner portion. So the motherfucking plot, it just thickens, dude. It thickens. It thickens. The plot thickens. So we all thought Prigozhin was on, borrowed time. That might not be the case. Maybe Putin... Hey, it's your boy Lenny from South Boston. Greetings. Glad to see you. Lenny is, of course, the #1 financial contributor to the stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you check out his YouTube channel, Accidents Waiting to Happen. #1 YouTube channel on esoteric safety issues. You're not gonna want to miss it. It's strangely compelling. It's strangely compelling, this subject of, how corporations and companies are able to just fuck you over. Lawn darts, right? Have you done a lawn dart episode, Lenny? You got to do a lawn dart episode. It's the classic, right? Anyway, back to Wagner, Ukraine. So we thought Prigozhin over here, Prigo. I love that word, Prigo. So we all thought Prigo was dead on ice, right? Just on borrowed time. It was my assumption that Putin was kind of buying time. Oh, you did? Okay. Well, I need to go through and rewatch the video. Maybe I missed one. So we all thought he was on borrowed time. And it was my prediction that maybe, Putin was just kind of waiting for him to be a little bit more irrelevant before he accidentally falls off a balcony. So to avoid him becoming a martyr. But this is interesting. There's been an in-person meeting, according to rumor. There's been an in-person meeting between Putin and Prigo. And now I'm going to change my prediction here. I guess I'm going to change my hypothesis on the situation, right? Because it's just a guess. It's I wouldn't dare even call it an educated guess, right? But it's just a guess. But my hypothesis on this is changing now, and I think what Putin is doing, he's taking advantage. He needs public support. He's going to be roping in 500,000, 500,000 Russian men into this meat grinder, and he needs all the public support he can get. Prigo was always doing this for Putin. It was always about Putin. It was never against Putin. It was, him, who knows if he's a true believer or not, whatever, him pretending or otherwise, that this was him protecting Putin from fucking Yazimov or whatever the fuck his name is. This general, right, that was, a military failure. So now it kind of seems like Putin is maybe co-opting, Prigozhin in a way. He's punished him. He's gone after his finances, locked all that down, raided the organization in St. Petersburg, locked down the motherfucking diamond mines or resource mines in Africa. #1 thing, right? Because that's big money coming in. So it's kind of like banished Prigo, right? In Metal Gear Solid parlance, right? Banished Prigozhin. Is Putin trying to take advantage of Prigo? Because like I said, it was always about Putin. This is about Daddy Putin. So why not embrace that? So the next thing you would want to do after this speech is you would have Prigo get in front of a camera, say, I love Putin. Thank you so much, Putin. I can't wait to help Putin. I can't wait to slob on Putin, right? And, thank you for my, send him back on the battlefield. He's a useful commander on the battlefield. He's absolutely ruthless. And he's, him and his goddamn psychopath group, Wagner, was the reason that they were able to even take Bakhmut. Which, by the way, I have an update. Ukrainians are back in Bakhmut. Confirmed. Ukrainians are back in Bakhmut. Welcome back, ROB. It's good to see you. ROB in a place to be. All right, so let's stop hearing from my goddamn ramblings. Let's hear from some people who actually have like a college education or something. Tune into this.
We begin with the breaking news from Russia. It's been revealed that a meeting has been held between Russian
I don't know if that's the
President Vladimir
case.
Putin and the chief of the Wagner mercenary
QDT?
group, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Kremlin spokesman
I don't know if that's the
Dmitry
case
Peskov
anymore.
told
You know what I
reporters
mean?
that the Russian president invited a group of unit commanders to the meeting, which was held just 5 days after the group marched towards Moscow last month. Let's bring in Yulia Shapovalova. She's following the story from Moscow. And Yulia, there has been widespread speculation.
Yo, she up in Moscow? Oh, dog. You know, protect your neck. She got some balls, man. I didn't know she was in Moscow. She got some balls.
Speculation about where the Wagner leader has been since the aborted rebellion on June 23rd, 24th. What is the Kremlin saying about it this time round?
Oh, you were saying he gets like a janitor job? No, his where he's most useful is on the battlefield. So, you know, obviously not general or anything, but, you know, put him in charge of some, you know, black ops group or something like that, you know, and let him continue to sing the praises of Putin while he's doing it, right?
Well, Kremlin has confirmed Putin met with Prigozhin 5 days after the Wagner armed mutiny. The meeting took place in the Kremlin on June the 29th. That's according to Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson.
Wagner, what am I doing?
The meeting lasted about 3 hours. It was also attended by the commanders of the group's detachments, and there were a total of 35 people, according to Dmitry Peskov. So the president gave his assessment of what happened and offered the representatives of the group employment options. The commanders also presented their version of what happened on June the 23rd, June the 24th, and they emphasized that they were staunch supporters and soldiers of the Russian president, and also said that they were ready to continue to fight for their motherland.
I haven't seen this video
basically,
yet.
that's the information we have, according to Dmitry Peskov.
It's a startling revelation, isn't it, Yulia? What are we to make of this statement, and what reaction can we expect in Russia?
Oh, wow. So it's really extraordinary to comment on all those things. Well, basically, a person with unique rights, that's Yevgeny Prigozhin. And of course, he is a person in Putin's political system. So for several months, the country watched the so-called Yevgeny Prigozhin show with bated breath when he shouted using...
So they're going to make a unit within the Russian military called Wagner. Prigozhin's going to be in charge of it. They're going to devote resources to it. You know, all the Wagner guys that the Russian military is scooping up will be transferred in there. That's what the fuck's going to happen here. And then the whole time Prigo is singing Putin's praises, and then quietly Yagimov, what the fuck is his name? I can't get his name right. But quietly he continues to keep his job, or he gets quietly shuffled about. Because of his unpopularity, because of the performance, because someone's got to be thrown under the bus. Obviously, it's not Putin's fault. No one would ever blame, the great mighty Putin, obviously. So someone's got to get thrown under the bus for the failure of the Russian military, right? There needs to be a scapegoat, because you can't say that, oh, the fault is that the Russian military is a creaky dinosaur held back by its own corruption. You can't say that. So there's got to be some excuse. There's got to be some reason why they're not making the kind of progress they were promised in Russia, or in Ukraine, I mean.
Obscene language, Shoigu, Gerasimov, where is the ammunition for my Wagner fighters? Who else is allowed to do what
I don't
he's
know,
done?
QDT. I don't know, bro.
An armed mutiny, launched a march in Moscow, shot down several helicopters and planes, killed several...
I don't think Prigo will ever, I'm sorry to keep interrupting the video, but just to answer Lenny here and, quick double tap, I don't think so anymore. I mean, no, I think Putin finds this far more useful, to treat him like, like it's that it's that kid character from Oblivion, constantly, can I help? Can I help? Right? He's like really annoying. But Lenny, I don't think, Prigozhin is going to go anywhere without his own, hyper loyal bodyguards. He'd be a damn fool to, even with this current situation. But fully co-opted, and if everyone plays along, and the media is going to play along, the Russian media do exactly what they're told. So, long game. Yeah, I don't know. I think Putin might find it more useful to keep this guy alive, right? It's kind of because it's kind of a cucking, right? It's like, he's, this Prigozhin guy is just prostrating himself to the, to Putin, and, Putin lets him live and lets him serve him, right? It kind of, from, if you could from a Russian audience perspective, spin this into a power move. Right, because the Western media, everyone in the Western media is saying, "Oh, this makes Putin look weak. This makes Putin look weak." But it's not about what the West thinks and what's outside of who outside of Russia, what they think. It's about what the internal Russian narrative is. That's what's going to sustain things, keep things going. So it's very interesting from that perspective.
Who else is allowed to do what he's done? The man staged an armed mutiny, launched a march in Moscow, shot down several helicopters and planes, killed several army pilots, and after all that, he got away with all that. And he enjoyed popularity, of course, among certain groups, including some in the military and those who supported Russia's special operation in Ukraine. For a reason, he used to say populist things about numerous problems in the army and on the battlefield in Ukraine, of course. And on Thursday last week, Peskov said that the Kremlin had neither the ability nor the desire to track Prigozhin's movements. And we also heard from President Alexander Lukashenko also last week that basically he said that he was no longer in Belarus. So that's all we can say about that meeting. But it's quite funny that the state media obviously first praised Prigozhin for many, many months for his achievements in Ukraine, so-called achievements in Ukraine, in Bakhmut. And after that, he denounced him after the armed rebellion on June the 23rd, June 24th. So basically, how the state media is going to portray Prigozhin now, we just have to wait and see, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is Julia Shapovalova.
No, because, I mean, who you want to look for is Dugin. That's the guy closest to Putin, who is, they're probably talking to each other about, how they're forming this narrative, right? So it'll be interesting to see what Putin or what Dugin will do, because this Dugin character went from singing Wagner's praises to, calling him the source of all of Russia's problems. So how is he going to 180 on this one?
Well, with the latest twist in the story live for us in Moscow.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, just incredible drama, right? It really is incredible drama. I can't believe that there was a meeting that, because I really did, there was this assumption that, there was this assumption that, Prigo it's done. Prigo is cooked, man. But I don't know if that's the case anymore. All right, so we got one from Warthog Defense, and of course, disclaimer: Warthog Defense is a right winger, seemingly. I think Warthog Defense is from. This is just my guess, but I think Warthog Defense is from Poland and is one of those Polish right wingers. I think that's what's going on. But he's, this Warthog Defense guy. He's got the damn clips. Arby's has the meats. Not really. This shit's disgusting. And Warthog Defense has the clips. It's just a fact, okay? So, sorry, I'm not, because it would take me a long time to compile all this, right? So he's doing it for me. Why not show it? But I do want a disclaimer, dude. Guy is a right winger. Just a heads up. This is a demining machine right here. Awesome stuff. All these guys have bellies like me, dude. All of them have fucking pot bellies, little comfortable little lives.
Military correspondents announced the removal of Gerasimov from command in Ukraine. Putin continued.
Yeah, that's this guy who looks permanently like he has that Tucker face, like I'm sure there's something going on back there, but he was just cursed with a face that looks perpetually confused.
Chaotic throwing. changing the commanders of the army in Ukraine, which is slowly but surely losing ground under the onslaught of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov, who led the Ukrainian campaign in December last year.
You know, and I'm questioning how long this offensive is going to be able to keep going. We're, you know, Joe Biden answering kind of like a G, but answering to that question by the reporter, like, you know, why cluster munitions? Why now? And he's like, well, because they need ammo. I'm hearing there's, you know, artillery shortages, you know, across the board. I'm shocked to hear that Ukraine in 500 days hasn't opened a single weapons factory. Is that true? Someone prove me wrong on that, please. That Ukraine in 500 days hasn't been able to. You're not opening, you know, bullet factories everywhere. These fucking massive artillery shells. Maybe there's no point because you can't get raw materials into Ukraine because of the war, because of Russia. So maybe that's the case. It's a lack of raw materials. It's not a lack of will. There's got to be a legitimate reason, though. Like, you know, 500 days, you can't whip up a fucking. I mean, this shit is not computer chips. We're talking about hunks of metal. It has to be made precisely, but you know, mankind has mastered metallurgy a long time ago. We have the machines and know-how. So maybe it's a problem of logistics or money. I'm not quite sure, but it's shocking to hear that there's still a shortage 500 days into this, that we don't have a really sturdy logistics train of weapons and ammo, you know, getting produced and sent there. It's still all patchwork. We're still sending care packages. So I'm starting to have some doubts about the how long this offensive will actually be going on. It's great to see Ukraine is consistently making progress every single day, right? I mean, so consistently dubbing it, consistently dunking on the Russians, right? And doing it properly in a way to avoid mass casualty events, right? So attacking where necessary, attacking where vulnerable, not overextending yourself, thinking very carefully, moving very methodically. It all makes sense. But my question is if there's an ammo shortage and like they're literally saying, oh, the only ammo we have left is cluster munitions, for real, right? Are you serious? Well, then what? We have like a couple weeks left on this shit. They're firing 1,000 a day. Not 1,000 a day, but like one artillery location will be firing 1,000 a day. Other countries are supplying war materials. Yeah. So, I mean, so why is this, 500 days into this, that we still have massive shortages? I'm just confused. How hard is it to make these fucking things? It must be very difficult, right? You know, I mean, it must be really, you do have to go into a total war stance to, keep up with the frontline needs of a war like this. Up to 6,000 a day. Okay. So that's across the entire front line, right? So, thank you, Davey, for that update, and welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, by the way. So I am starting to be very concerned, and not about Ukraine's ability to win. They can win. They do it every day. But Ukraine's ability to sustain this, right? I'm getting a little concerned here because I'm seeing a lot of like the West is just like, yep, it's winning, slam dunks. The West is just very positive about the whole situation, but I don't know. I'm seeing some cracks in this, in this situation. I don't like to see it. So prove me wrong, please.
Year has allegedly been removed from command and control, according to Z military correspondents. Gerasimov formally retains the post of Chief of the General Staff, but has nothing to do with resolving issues of military operations, Rybar writes.
Is this the guy getting
According
thrown
to
under
him,
the bus, then?
The actual leadership of the troops is now carried out by Colonel General Mikhail Teplinsky, who a year ago took up the post of commander of the airborne forces and in April became deputy commander of the grouping in Ukraine. On July 8th, this was also announced in Romanov Light.
Quick double tap.
The pretext for large-scale purges in the RF armed forces was the rebellion of PMC Wagner. Since the beginning of the war, Putin has changed the commander of the army sent to conquer Ukraine at least 4 times. Ukrainian bridgehead has been expanded east to the rail trestle and south to the limits of Oleshki.
Oh my God! Find a new background song, dude. Jesus Christ! It's like some fucking siphon filter, B rolls, fucking B-sides track, dude. It's so annoying. Get a different track. God damn, Warthog Defense.
Ukrainian
He's cranking out like 6 of these videos a day, though. Like, he gives a fuck about the music.
forces destroyed a Russian main battle tank during contact on 8 July. Ukrainian artillery is targeting Russian troops, armor, and logistics as they approach Kherson.
I mean, he literally put this out so recently, it hasn't even, like, it takes YouTube time to process high-resolution versions of the video. It's still in 720p standard definition because it hasn't finished processing yet. So this shit is like, this is hot off the presses.
Contact continues along the M14 HWI axis,
Yeah.
and this is satisfying to watch. Demining Ukrainian land on the front lines.
God,
Each meter is
front
heavily mined.
lines.
Ukrainian defenders still move forward in these conditions.
Oh, man. Oof. Each one of these will, you know, blow your balls right off your body, dude. Goodbye, ankles. Your whole foot flies in the air, dude. Each one of these. You know, so, and hey, you know, we are, and, you know, look, there's going to be a rather boring ending to the stream because we're going to be watching, that was rather loud. So we're going to be watching a half-hour-long debate on cluster munitions. But this is the kind of thing that Ukraine would be doing, you know, once the war is over. They'll be going to places. I assume they're keeping track of where Russia is using cluster munitions. And they say they've made that pledge. It was in the, you know, the 5 things that they've pledged, that they're going to be, you know, sending machines like this to go over these areas where cluster munitions were used. I got to say, though, the statistics are bananas. Some of these statistics are totally nuts. 97% of cluster munitions kill civilians. I mean, it's just like, how is this, like, it's either, there's either like a legitimate reason why these numbers are skewed, or cluster munitions are actually really terrible and don't kill soldiers. So I'm a little confused, right? Why that is. Davey, you know, mentioned last stream that, hey, you know, apparently cluster munitions are used against civilians quite a bit. So maybe that's what's skewing the numbers. But I got to say, these numbers make it extremely hard to defend their use, right? Hole-ridden human gibbles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Gherkin
kissing
is on
Gonzo.
fire today.
Yeah.
According to
If
the
you know
analytical
how to fix a
department of
machine,
the
get your
UBS
ass into
agency,
Ukraine.
The operation to urgently return
Pay's
the
probably not
commanders
that
of
great.
the Azov regiment to Ukraine
Be
was
real.
carried out at the request of the presidential administration in order to divert public attention from the consequences of the Wagner PMC
Make some
rebellion,
bank. I don't know
which
about
did
bank.
not take place in reality. According
Can't
to other
imagine they can
experts,
afford to pay you
President Lukashenko,
what you're worth.
the most likely contender for the post of Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Union State under Supreme Ruler E. Prigozhin, personally addressed Erdogan with this request on behalf of Putin.
Oh yeah, we are going to be talking about Turkey as well, and the surprising moves coming out of Turkey. You got to smile. My daily goal is complete. Kissing Gonzo, you are adorable. You continue being you. Just a big red cock over there.
Here, Ukrainian soldiers fire 2 Stinger manpads versus a Russian helicopter.
Hit 'em.
Outcome is unclear.
Man, welcome back. Dude, it's not. I cannot believe this is not a video game. Shut the fuck up. It's so fucking like the first person camera is killing me, dude. He fucking reload. Look at that shit. That is straight out of Hollywood video game. He fucking throws the, you know, the clip. Use them specifically to level cities. Yeah, look at that shit, dude. Gotta stop with this first person like camera shit. We'll get fucking. I swear to God, one of these videos is going to give me PTSD. I'm gonna have some like nightmares I won't be able to recover from. Okay, there's like I hear someone talking. I'm not sure why. So where's the reload?
Ukrainian units continue to destroy Russian armor along with their equipment
Okay.
in the Tavri direction. During the day, the enemy lost more than 2 companies killed and wounded. 23 units of military equipment were destroyed.
Oh yeah, kissing Gonzo. That is definitely happening. Good old ammo cook-off. Damn, dude.
The squad of Ukrainian anti-tankers on
Hold on.
volunteer
Well, I
buggies
need to see that one more time. What the fuck happened there?
Ukrainian units continue to destroy Russian armor along with
Look at
their
it.
equipment in the Tavri direction. During the day, the enemy lost more than 2 companies killed and wounded. 23 units of military equipment were destroyed.
Oh, fuck, dude. There's multiple. Yeah. Yeah, just movies using the real footage, and at least like documentaries that, of course, going to use the footage. So that's Ukraine hitting a Russian trench in a tree line. It looks like
The
they
squad
hit
of Ukrainian
ammo or
anti-tankers
something.
on volunteer buggies quickly works on enemy positions.
You know, I hate cigarette smoke. I'm a weed smoker, but I hate cigarette smoke. I would really have a hard time with all the cigarette smoking. You know, because I hate cigarette smoke, dude. I would have such a hard time, dude. These guys, you know, we'd be in a fucking bunker together. You know, I'm like, just put your fucking cigarette out, you son of a bitch, and fucking, we're in this trench. You know, we're getting bombed. The last fucking thing I want to smell is your fucking cigarette. You know what I mean? Just put that fucking shit out. They're all like smoke. They're like fucking smoking 300 of them. I'll probably, you know, I'd be so stressed out I'd want to smoke. Yeah, exactly, Davey. Yeah, you're definitely. Welcome back, Attack on Coffee. There's a lot of smoking going on. You fart all you want, no smoking. Yeah, I would, you know, I'd rather smell the occasional fart than a smoker. Ooh, that is nasty. And look, it's on one of these like super fast buggies, right? So you get into position. This whole operation probably 10 minutes, right? Pull up, aim, fire, and you're out, dude. You're doing like, you know, and like look at the suspension and everything. You're doing like, you know, 50, 60 miles an hour over some really rough terrain. As long as you don't hit a mine, I doubt these things are armored well enough, dude. If you hit a proper, you know, if you hit an anti-tank mine, you're probably fucked. Reload. Gonna reload that bitch. So does he have to aim it afterwards? Is it one of those? I don't think so, right? It's kind of like
Another footage of the dispersing of people with K-52 on Berdyansk Beach.
So this isn't like a safety thing. This is like literally Russia just harassing Ukrainians. Is that what we're seeing here? I'm still confused about what the purpose of this is. And like people are just like, it's not working. It's like the stupidest fucking thing. They're like, what are you doing? You know? Sit down on the cannon. Yeah, I was wondering if he was steering it or maybe probably just watching.
Relatives of mobilized Russian men once again beg Putin the Tsar to let their men go. They assure Putin of their full support of the special military operation. They fully agree that their husbands...
Russians on holiday. I see. That's what's going on. It's a little petty. So that's Ukraine. That's Ukraine doing that. So those are Russians on holiday. Okay, that makes sense then. It's pretty petty, but that makes sense because it's Russians on Russian occupied territory. They're trying to have fun. They're trying to have a holiday. And there's a goddamn war going on, like just a couple 100 miles, you know, in a different direction. Interesting. You know, if it was Russia, do you think they'd open up fire? If it was Russia, do you think they'd open? Because Russia is totally fine killing civilians with missiles, long distance missiles. Do you think they would open up on Ukrainian civilians? Ukraine does not get helicopters anywhere near Crimea. Yeah. So wait a minute. Yeah. Wait a minute. How would Ukraine have? So what the fuck? So wait a minute. Is it Russia shaming Russians for being on holiday when maybe they should be helping with the war effort? I'm so confused. Why are multi-million-dollar military vehicles harassing sunbathers? So yeah, because Davey makes a great point. The Ukrainian helicopters wouldn't be that far in. Russians on Russians. So it's just Russians being assholes to other Russians. Russian created propaganda and then blaming Ukraine. I mean, what the fuck, man? Aren't you guys fighting a war? It's such a clown show. It's such a fucking clown show.
Kill Ukrainians. They just want them to get some rest.
Уважаемый Владимир Владимирович, мы родные и близкие мобилизованных в сентябре 2022 года мужчин. Просим вас обозначить сроки несения службы в период специальной военной операции не более 6
It was definitely a military helicopter. It was like double rotors with fucking missiles and shit on the side of it. Yeah. Keep fucking dreaming. It's not happening. You know, we don't need to hear this. Let my, you know, I mean, honestly, you let him go, let him go. I mean, we've seen how Russia does this. They literally don't pay these guys, early
Moscow,
on.
Russia,
Because they just want them to die. And then they're like, oh, they're missing. They're just missing forever. So they don't even count as dead. They don't have to compensate. It's the schemiest fucking thing in the world, man. Not even the VA in the United States is that scummy.
Another video was published. As we know them, queuing as usual, and of course there was something for free.
Yeah.
A couple of hours ago, Moskovitz stood in line
he's
for
in like
free
a
ice
G-string
cream
with his
lulls near
camera out.
Chisty Prudy. The wait for a free ice cream was from 1 to 2 hours. You can't make that shit up.
Free ice cream? Okay.
Thanks for watching.
I mean, I like free ice cream. I ain't waiting in line for 2 hours for fucking a free ice cream cone. Smoking crack, dude. You know? Does that mean you can't go to a grocery store and get ice cream? Is that what that was implying? But no, Lenny, Lenny was making a comment, wasn't sure if it was like a military helicopter. I mean, this is a military helicopter. That's got missiles, one of these double rotor, for high maneuverability.
On Berdyansk Beach.
Right? This thing's fully strapped, dude. It's got Hellfires or whatever the fucks. It's fully equipped with whatever the fucks. I don't know. Oh, pretty rainbow. I didn't notice that. Wow. There's a Russian on Russian harassment. I'm unsure of the motivation still. So is this like, are these Ukrainians on Russian occupied territory? Is that what it is? How do they know these are Ukrainians? I'm so confused, man. The Russian mindset confuses the nuts out of me. It really does. I'm so confused. Don't say it's easy. Shut up. So we got to talk about this. Turkey throws another wrench in the works, man. What is up with this? So, I mean, with this move, is it official that Turkey has picked a side? Because Turkey has been expertly playing both sides up until now. Is it fair to say that Turkey has now picked a side, quote unquote? Because what we've seen, so if you're not sure what's going on, Turkey, are we done with Wagner? I guess we're kind of done with Wagner. Yeah, let me just move on let me just move this over to our Ukraine segment here. There we go. So is it official then? Turkey's picked a side. So like I said, so if you're not sure what's going on, Turkey recently, out of the blue, oh wait, the amount of fuel wasted to get a dopamine fix is kind of weak-minded. Oh no, well, I mean, I have it queued up a second time. So if you have additional comments about this madness, if someone can tell me the actual motivation, why is this happening multiple times? Are these Ukrainians on Russian occupied territory? Are these Russians on Russian occupied territory? I feel confident saying this is a Russian helicopter. That's a Russian helicopter. Why are they so mean to each other? That's just a You're not teaching anybody a lesson. I mean, maybe, I don't know. It makes a little bit more sense if this was like a Ukrainian helicopter and these were Russian civilians, right? You're not killing them, but you're kind of reminding them, hey, you're invading our country. It's petty, but that would make sense. But that's not the case here. Man, he's getting low too, dude. He could really kill some people if if something gets caught in those rotors and something gets sucked up. I don't know how it works. All right, anyway. So Turkey, right? So if you're not sure what's going on, they recently, just out of the blue, released the commanders from the Azovstal. Was it the Azovstal power plant? Was that the amazing battle there? But these guys, they were surrounded. They fought like demons. They were surrounded, taken prisoner. Most of the regular soldiers, I guess, had already been traded in prisoner swaps. But these, what Turkey was supposed to do for Putin was he was supposed to hold these guys for Putin to make sure that they were, I guess the idea was you're not holding them as prisoners of war, but you're taking them out from the conflict, right? The idea was that Turkey was going to hold on to them until the end of the war. Well, Turkey just out of the blue announces, nope, they're free. They're already back in Ukraine. They're already pledged that they're rejoining the fight. Immediately, Zelensky did a whole ceremony, pinned some medals on them, and they repledged allegiance. I really do need to fix this RSS app thing. This is so annoying. But, they pledged allegiance and now they're back. So on top of that, so that happened a couple days ago. Now, on top of that, Turkey appears to have run out of patience. It has just announced that the Turkish Navy will protect ships in the Black Sea from Russian Navy terrorists, even if Russia withdraws from the grain deal. I think this is news is total bogus, which was a rumor started by ViceGrad24. Really, Davey? That is interesting. Yeah, because this okay. So if that is true, because this is huge news. What if you're like, what the hell am I talking about? What the hell is grain? What? Turkey has a deal with Ukraine for Ukraine to ship cheap grain over to Turkey. Ukraine makes a lot of grain. Okay, that's the flag, yellow on the bottom, blue on top, the blue sky, yellow's the fields. We've seen these Russians get smoked in these flat ass fields, these fields that go on and on and on, these beautiful plains, absolutely gorgeous, just filled with sunflowers in some cases, right? So they're very fertile, perfect for farming wheat. So this is Turkey. If the rumor is to be true, this is Turkey saying, if you attack Ukrainian grain ships, the Turkish military, the Turkish Navy, will defend Ukrainian grain ships from Russian attacks. That's huge. That's fucking huge, if true. Turkey did say, though, that they will ratify Sweden for... What? When? What? Okay, hold on. What the hell is going on, man? Like, there's news coming out of Turkey, like, by the second. Hold on. What? Erdogan links Sweden stalled an initiative with Turkey's EU accession. Turkey agrees to move ahead with Sweden NATO bid. Stoltenberg. What? Oh, Putin, you're so fucked. Putin, stop embarrassing yourself. Stop doing this. Someone tell Putin he's making a fool of himself. Someone let him know. That's what's going on. Okay, I said this in the Discord. I'm going to say it on stream. I think Turkey knows something, probably the U.S. probably knows. I think Turkey knows something about what's happening in Russia. Maybe economics, something, right? Maybe Turkey is just like, nope, we've made it, we've thought long and hard, and this is our decision, and this is the time, and maybe it has nothing to do with the condition of Russia. These two, these decisions made in coordination? I don't know, man. That's kind of big. All right, let's check this out.
Changed its laws significantly and I have just had a constructive meeting with President Erdogan and Prime Minister Kristersson. I'm glad to announce that as a result, President Erdogan has agreed to forward the accession protocol for Sweden to the Grand National Assembly as soon as possible, and work closely with the Assembly to ensure ratification. This is reflected in the joint press statement just agreed by President Erdogan, Prime Minister Kristersson, and myself. The memorandum concluded a year ago at the Madrid summit has delivered. It has delivered more in our fight against terrorism, more security for Turkey, and a stronger NATO. Since our agreement in Madrid, Sweden and Turkey have worked closely together to address Turkey's legitimate security concerns. As part of that process, Sweden has amended its constitution, changed its laws, significantly expanded its counter-terrorism cooperation against the PKK.
This is all Putin.
And resumed arms exports to Turkey.
You know.
Sweden's cooperation with Turkey in the
What do you think about Putin if you're Russia right now?
fight against terrorism will continue beyond accession. Turkey and Sweden agreed today to establish a new bilateral security compact. NATO will also significantly step up its work in this area. And I will establish for the first time at NATO the post of Special Coordinator for Counterterrorism. Completing Sweden's accession to NATO is an historic step that benefits the security of all NATO allies
100%
at this critical time.
Great point.
It makes us all stronger and safer.
Wow. Wow. Wow, dude. I thought Putin was going to wait a little longer on that. So Clutch Cargo making an excellent point that, you know, if you're Turkey and you have interests in the Black Sea, not just Ukrainian grain, but all kinds of interests that are coming through the Black Sea, products of various kinds from all different places, you want a strong ally in Ukraine. If you're because look, in the Putin has made it a Putin has made it very clear that you're either with him or you're against him. Right? So you're, as a country, you're forced into making a decision about, okay, well, if I'm against him, what does that mean? How can that benefit me? There's more benefits if I'm with him or against him, and I have two choices. Well, which is the one that benefits Turkey the most? Maybe that's what he was doing. He was waiting on the election to win the election. He thought very carefully about, okay, which one is going to, you know, because he doesn't give a shit about Turkey. He cares about his own power. He wants to stay in power. So if he can get a good deal out of the situation, it can help him stay in power. Cheap grain, right? Cheap energy, cheap. It's like, you know, cheap energy versus cheap grain, and cheap other products as well. Wow. It's a bit cover maybe 3rd July Express. Yeah, horrifying moment, death and dying, unload from helicopters on the beach while tourists swim, controlling the narrative. What? Bit of a cover maybe 3rd July Express UK nurse. Horrifying moment, dead. Wait, so one of those helicopters actually opened up? If I was Putin, I would worry about having an effective military and not being assassinated. I think, you know, Putin... If Putin was ever a savant at something, I think it would be making sure that the people around him are not, you know, do not have the balls to do it. I think that is the last thing that is going to happen. Putin getting assassinated, quite frankly, because he's so damn paranoid, and he has no problem taking you out. If you're a billionaire, it does not matter. Bye-bye. Off a balcony you go. So, okay. What? Quick double tap over here. Disturbing video captures war casualties. Geez, 300 pop-ups. Look at this. 3 individual things I need to click on. This too, I don't want it. Horrifying moment, dead and dying unloaded from helicopters onto beach while tourists swim. Oh. Okay, so this isn't a helicopter unloading on people. This is a helicopter unloading dead people. While there's a goddamn war going on, dum-dums. So they're unloading casualties. They're fucking unloading casualties. Okay, dum-dums. Oh, it's ruining my sunbathing session. Fuck you. You know, I don't even care, Russia, Ukraine in this context, right? Get off the fucking beach. Fucking morons. He said the other day that they would approve Sweden if Turkey has gotten a real path to joining the EU. Pretty sure they gave him secret assurances to join the EU. Interesting. Throw the body bags over there. So someone's literally just catching some rays of fucking smell. What? That's terrible. That's incredibly dark. What am I doing? Making fun of rotting dead people smell. Okay. So, wow. I can't believe this is real. Hold on. I honestly can't believe this is real. Look at all the things I've downloaded. Bunch of GIFs for something related, something new that's happening. Can't wait. I can't wait to show you. All right, one more time. Clear path, Stoltenberg. Okay, so wait. This rumor, hold on. So Turkey, Black Sea. Let's see if we have any information about this being a rumor. Turkey's quiet coast. Aw. 1 month, 2 months, 4 years, 3 years. Look at me ask YouTube about rumors about Turkey as if I'm going into some RPG inn. Any rumors about the monsters in town? Ukraine's Leslie bring home Avastal commanders from Turkey. So, I mean, we already talked about that. Tightrope between Ukraine, Russia, and NATO. Aerodyne's Balancing Act. Turkey agrees to advance. Breaks down agreement for Turkey backing Sweden's NATO bid. Okay, let's do this. Let's tune into the CNN one.
We just have the news that Turkey has now agreed to back Sweden's NATO
Green
bid.
Deal.
Of course, it was a year ago at the NATO summit in Madrid that there was agreement then, but since then Turkey has been throwing up roadblocks here. And even earlier today, there was some question as whether Turkey would come through. Can you let us know exactly how this came to be? What agreements were made? Was anything offered in return?
Well, thanks, Jim, for the question. Unfortunately, I'm just hearing the news as you're reading it out to me.
Am I really supposed to assume that this source is going to give me any kind of usable or viable information? This direct mouthpiece from the fucking Pentagon? You know, this is why people don't take fucking CNN and MSNBC seriously. Are you joking? The only time that a person like this, clearly some representative or someone who works for the goddamn Pentagon, why else would they have? This is the goddamn Pentagon's press room. So the only time this person should be on your screen is if you're asking them hard-hitting questions about the goddamn Pentagon. Instead, it's like the fucking Spook Network direct mouthpiece. Are we kidding ourselves? Look, I don't even care. Like, I don't even care if what she says is totally benign and 100% factual. You know what I mean? It's just mainstream media is such a fucking joke, dude. You know, we got Bush administration officials still running around acting like experts. Bush administration officials. I know some of the Zoomers weren't even alive back then. But goddamn, you know, what are we doing here? Anyway, I made my point. Thank you, Johnny Bananas, for that follow. Hell yeah, appreciate that, bud. U.S. may also have approved Turkey to buy American F-35. It had to have been. I knew he was waiting on the goddamn toys. I knew he was waiting on them jets. So I knew that was happening. But he could have, there had to have been something really sweet with the EU stuff because he's flipped the switch, dude. He's picked a side. It feels like he's picked a side, and he's been playing both sides so well up until now. So something big had to have been given to him, right? So we're gonna be hearing about that soon as well. Probably in the next coming months, right? Some meeting or something that's scheduled to come up, EU meeting, right?
So I'm not exactly sure of any arrangements or agreements that have been made. But we have been confident as an administration that Sweden would be the 32nd country admitted to NATO. So if there is, in fact, a clear path and Turkey has lifted its opposition to Sweden joining NATO, we certainly welcome that news. And I just would mention that on the as we're starting the NATO summit in Vilnius in Lithuania.
Thank you. I don't know why it's not announcing the follow, but thank you for following T-Rex sore ass. T-Rex sore ass and Johnny Bananas got together. Johnny Bananas and T-Rex sore ass got together. I wonder why. F-35, the $1 trillion warplane you didn't know you needed. You know, they should, you know what they should do? They should do like an F-34 where it's like, you know, without all the fancy gizmos, but, you know, all the, you know, just the basic model. Because, yeah, I mean, I if I was another country, I wouldn't want F-35s, right? By the time you're actually using them, you need all this maintenance and upkeep and all this tech that needs to be updated. You know, it's like buying a luxury car. You know, all of a sudden you're buying this goddamn, you know, obligation. You know, you fucking, your headlight breaks and you got to pay $15,000 because it was, you know, made with chrome and, you know, they only made 600 of them, you know, that kind of shit. Yeah, exactly, Lenny. Very creative names. You know what I mean? Like, if I was another country, I wouldn't even want the F-35. What a fucking boondoggle. You can't buy one with, so yeah, so that's what I'm saying, Kissing Gonzo. Like, fuck, I don't know, man. These things better like rock. You know what I mean? Like absolutely rock solid, you know. How many F-35s have actually been tested in real combat though? How did a person get that one on Twitch? That's a nasty emote. That's a nasty emote. Not one F-16. Yeah, I'd be getting F-16s, honestly. Or the F-18, right? Proven, tested, it works. You know, there's probably, you know, aftermarket parts because the F-16's been around so long, right? This is probably Chinese aftermarket parts you could get. So that's what I'm saying, man. It doesn't seem like a smart move. What it is, though, is that Aerodon, look at me, everybody. I got F-35s. Yep, look at me. Look what I did. I'm Aerodon. I got our F-35s. My military is so modern, so powerful. What, you got fucking, 5 of them? Look, I don't care how badass they are, okay? They don't do dogfights. They kill you in secret. Yeah, okay, all right. So they're the most badass fucking thing ever. All right, okay. Seems like a fucking boondoggle. Seems, you know what it is? It's like I said, it's a goddamn status symbol for fucking a tyrant.
Lithuania, NATO is even stronger and more united than it has been, even bigger than before with 31 countries, and now hopefully with the 32nd as well.
The spook isn't wrong.
Before we go, I want to ask you about the administration's decision to go ahead and send cluster munitions to Ukraine. As you know, this is a weapon that's been banned by more than 100 countries around the world. The U.S. has not signed on to that
What about cluster munitions? This is going to be great.
Of how these...
It's going to be immediately, what about Russia? Russia's already using them. Russia's been using them. Ukraine. They're not going to mention, what she's not going to mention is that the United States has not signed on to the to the no cluster weapons treaty. We're gonna not mention that part. But she's gonna what about the fuck out of this and point to Russia. I guarantee you. Let's watch. I hope I'm wrong. Let's see.
Been used in this conflict, how indiscriminately they've been used by Russia, but also how history has shown that they carry deadly impact many years, often many decades after war. Why are these weapons necessary now? And are you concerned about the loss, to some degree, of the moral high ground, right, for Ukrainian forces here, or at least the diminution of the moral high ground for Ukrainian forces to use such a weapon?
Yeah, we had a meeting about it. Yeah.
Well, you heard just on your own network, the president sat down and said that this was a very hard decision to make, but it's ultimately the right decision to make. We know we have to bridge our 155 rounds here and increase production here in the United States to continue Ukraine in the fight. But artillery is one of their biggest priority needs on the battlefield, and the expenditure of artillery rounds on the battlefield is quite high. And so these cluster munitions, we are sending ones that have a dud rate of lower than 2.35%. We're confident because that Ukraine will use these responsibly on the battlefield, and we're confident in that because they've given us their assurance of that. But this was a hard decision that the president made, that his national security team recommended to him ultimately. And it's going to keep Ukraine not only in the fight, but going to keep them pushing forward and advancing in their counteroffensive.
And this spook has been media trained really well. She's a dangerous one. She's great. She's great. Yeah, I can see why she's doing this.
Rita Singh, thanks so much for joining us from the White House today. The Pentagon, I should say. Thanks very much.
Yeah, we just call the Pentagon to tell us what to say. Yeah, we do that. We're journalists. Fuck off, you fucking moron.
I do want to bring in CNN's Nick Robertson on this news, just into CNN, that Turkey has now agreed to support NATO's accession to NATO.
Who the fuck is this guy?
I recognize him. To NATO. This is something of a surprise because even a couple hours ago it wasn't clear that Turkey would come through. They were connecting this to their own accession to the EU. Do we know what brought Turkey over the finish line here?
Yeah, I think we've got an idea now. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg was hosting a meeting between President Erdogan and the Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson.
Maybe bananas, maybe.
It is in that meeting, and I think if we think back to earlier in the day,
Nick Robertson, that's who. Okay, I have heard of this guy.
Stoltenberg had said that he felt that a positive outcome or positive discussions could still be held, and now we're
I don't believe those numbers that she stated.
It says that since the past year.
I think it's fair to say, I think it's fair to guarantee that U.S. cluster munitions are going to have a lower dud rate than the pulled out of some rusty ass warehouse, some Soviet warehouse that, the door was closed in 1973 and hasn't been opened yet, right? Some cluster munition from that era. So I feel confident, agreeing with that. But this we only have a 2.1 failure rate. My dick, you fucking spook. No way that's true.
When Sweden wanted to join NATO and Turkey said you need to do more to combat the Kurdish terrorists, the PKK group, an opposition group, obviously not in Turkey's good books and not in the good books of many other countries as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweden has now changed its constitution,
got Stalin's signature on
to toughen up there. Sweden has also, this communique from NATO notes, now restarted weapons sales to Turkey that they had stopped in the past.
Yeah, sure, Davey. Tell that to the soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. They got their fucking balls blown off because the goddamn Jeeps didn't have proper IED plating, so on and so forth. We still got soldiers buying their own gear, so I don't know about that, Davey. I don't know. I know you're a little biased on that. I'm not saying that, the United States doesn't know how to make a proper boom boom. I'm just saying, let's reel it back a bit. Show me some independent studies, right? If we even have any, if they're even allowed to be had, right? All the numbers that we have are from the government and from the military industrial complex, right? And okay, I'm skeptical.
There's also a new commitment here, it appears, from Sweden to say that they will continue this bilateral security and cooperation relationship.
We might have leverage,
Turkey.
Panda Man.
This is something
it's
new
interesting comment. We might have some leverage now.
And this is now being more formalized. It appears to be more of an ongoing event, that this is a long-term commitment and understanding.
The five things that they've pledged is great. Is absolutely great. They pledge that they're not going to use it on, in urban areas, period. Even regardless if they're, if they're occupied by Russia or not. They're not going to use them on, civilians, obviously. That's they're going to keep track of where they use them, and, they've pledged to do recovery. So just a bunch of fucking making my liberal warmonger dick raw hard, right? So a lot of shit that's making me it makes it, it's the kinder, softer war. I mean, this is one of the most moral conflicts I've ever seen in my lifetime, right? Right up there with World War II in terms of how clear good and bad we're at. Obviously, I'm not comparing Russia to Nazi Germany. I think those comparisons are a little off, but I'm saying, in terms of right and wrong, it's as clear as night and day for me when it comes to Ukraine and Russia. You rarely get that at the same time, so it's I want to be careful being a warmonger here, but I got to, I support this conflict, and that means I support fucking people up, and you got to come to terms with that.
from Sweden
Welcome
towards
back,
combating
nickname.
counterterrorism. And also the YPG, the Syrian Kurdish group, is also now on Sweden's list of countries, a list of groups to keep on their radar at the demand of the Turks.
We know some U.S. senators, including the Republican leader, has raised the possibility of withholding U.S. weapons sales to Turkey as a way to apply pressure. F-16s. Do we know if that was a factor in Turkey, in effect, changing its mind here?
Look, I think let's read the information that we have, and I think it shades us to believe that possibly that was part of it. When Jake Sullivan was speaking on Air Force One just before it arrived in the UK last night, President Biden had just wrapped up a long telephone conversation with President Erdogan. When Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, then explained what had been in that conversation, he spoke about the upgrade to the F-16s that Erdogan wanted, and then immediately moved on to the...
Johnny Bananas, because Turkey is, considers the I think support for the PKK to be an issue. And I actually just got done last night. I was watching some combat footage of the PKK fighting against Turkey, and those are some brutal ass motherfuckers. I mean, sneaking up on Turkish soldiers and just unloading on them. So I think it's a hot button issue in Turkey, and Erdogan. I don't think Erdogan actually cares. I don't think Erdogan actually cares, but he needs to, the Turkish people care, and he needs to put on a really strong, kind of outward aggressive face against the PKK. With that said, I don't think the PKK are really, offering any kind of real challenge to the Turkish military, but they are incredibly fucking brutal. I gotta say, man. I mean, these guys just they were not taking prisoners.
Moved on to this issue of Sweden being allowed into NATO and for Turkey to stop blocking that. So, I think it's clear in the way the narrative is being woven that this was the possibility of leverage. And it certainly, if it's clear to us as readers, it was likely clear to Erdogan as well.
So Clutch Cargo, I mean, look, if you the thing about that is that if you agree with that reasoning, then you also agree with the reasoning that when and if Russia drops a nuclear weapon, it's not Russia's fault, right? It was the escalation, right? It was because the United States gave Ukraine fighter jets, right? And that led directly to, and it's that narrative benefits the aggressor, right? Because the aggressor could say, from the aggressor's POV, I just have to be super brutal, and if I'm brutal enough, then it will trigger this moral argument where if your opponent, if the entity that you're being brutal against doesn't acquiesce to your brutality, that entity is being cruel to its own people because it's not acquiescing to your brutality. It's a nasty kind of logic, right? That kind of incentivizes brutality, right? This idea that, well, Russia had no choice. They escalated into chemical weapons because Ukraine was given X amount of weapons, or cluster weapons, right? It basically allows aggressors to, just get away with being aggressive. All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess, and here's the Vicegrad rumor, I haven't seen anything like this. I guess, hold on, let's see. It's a Turkey grain deal. Let's see what we got here. See if we got anything about this. 1 month, 11 month, 8 month, 8 month, 3 days. Green deal. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like this might have been a rumor by Vicegrad24. Thank you, Davey, for giving me the heads up here. Appreciate that heads up on that. Here's a blue check that's being skeptical, saying, again, every source on this comes back to Twitter. Where is this being reported? Because there's not a lot of people being skeptical. Everyone is taking this at face value, and this is a huge announcement if it's true. right? Because it's effectively Turkey declaring war on Russia. You know, in a roundabout way. Okay, hold on. Okay, so we got this helicopter video here. We've seen it. We've talked about it. Is anyone in the comments giving us any kind of like logic, reason why? So here we probably resented them enjoying their day at the beach while he risked death in the war. Yeah, he wasn't risking anything. He was far from the front lines. The pilot spreading gay propaganda. It's the gay agenda at work, definitely. Purely hypothetically, I wonder what high person... Yeah, okay. Yeah, you could... I mean, something could get sucked up into those rotors. Was the pilots denied a holiday? I mean, it wasn't just a one-off thing. It wasn't just like one pissed off pilot, like, you know, mad at his wife cheating on him. Like, it's happened multiple days, the last video I saw had like 3 or 4 helicopters making circles around the beach. Oh, this is that class. Someone posted this classic video. This was from super early in the war, and we you know, when we first saw this, we were speculating that, oh, this has to be fake. I mean, look at how well it's framed. Look at how like cinematic it is. You know, look at how the perfect shot. Like, come on, no way this is real. Pretty sure it's real. I've never seen anyone point out that this is fake or prove that it's fake. Just absolute fucking smack and blat, dude. God damn, framed perfectly. This was really early on, and yeah, there's no ejection seat in the helicopter for obvious reasons. It wasn't obvious to me at first. I remember asking that question, and Davey must have been like, "Shut the fuck up, dude. How come there isn't an ejection seat in a helicopter?" So yeah, this is great. You know, $200-$300 drone. Dropping a grenade on a line of obvious mines. You couldn't have thrown some dust on them or something, boys? How many seconds, honestly, answer me. How many seconds? Do we have any military guys? Quick double tap. Are you a military guy? How many seconds do you think it would have taken to throw some fucking dust over these obviously fucking military green mines, right? I mean, just you know, with your hands, you're just scooping up a little bit of, you know, road dust and shit. Look at it, it's a dirt road. I don't know. You must have been, I mean, they're in a hurry, right? And at any moment they could get hit with artillery. So you're not wasting time. You're not hanging out. But I mean, all right. It's like this is what happens when you underpay and undertrain someone, right? They technically did the job, but they didn't do the job right. You know, you get what you pay for, Russian military. Russia does have helicopters with ejection seats. The propellers break apart, then the seat ejects. No shit. Awesome. Fuck, that's cool. Blows apart, and then the cockpit blows out. That's neat. All right. Okay. Regardless, even if that helicopter, I mean, it was a direct hit right into the face of the cockpit. Like a fucking Michael Bay movie. You know what I mean? That guy was fucked. He had milliseconds to react. So confirmed. Hopefully this is not a rumor. And I think these guys are just fooling around. I don't think they were shooting explosives to make it blow up. I think they were just playing, and then someone you know, hit the trigger on this. You'll see what I mean in a second. But this looks like Ukraine is back in Bakhmut, baby. Knock, knock, motherfuckers. Oh, you thought we were done, huh? You thought we were done. Knock, knock. You love to see it. It was lunchtime. Want to bury a story, put something like it to make people's first click something else. Good point. Good point. They're just hanging out. They're just chilling. They're being silly. Let's start over here. God, you know, I recognize this too. I totally recognize this apartment block complex. I've seen Russian and Ukrainian videos of them, you know, running around through the corridors, in and out. of this apartment, you know, complex. So crazy. I mean, hundreds, thousands of people lived here at one time. Oh yeah, they'll rebuild it. I mean, maybe, or they might just leave it as it is, as like a monument. Ooh.
Вот это красиво!
Maybe. I mean, I think it's likely that Ukraine will rebuild it though, because we've already seen Ukraine, like in Bucha, you know, we've already seen Ukraine aggressively rebuild, you know, as a sign of strength against the Russian occupation, right? You know, you're not going to stop us. You're literally not even going to be able to keep the city destroyed, right? The moment we take it back, we're going to start, you know, getting back to our normal life. That's how much we disregard you. The drones are just getting started. Yeah, Skynet's over here. I mean, they already have these, you know, these robots on tank treads that they, you know, they'd be piloting around. I'm sure that shit is, you know, if it hasn't happened yet, it will be happening. Not as bad as like Damascus, but yeah. Here's a 40-second simulation clip showing how Russian. Oh, okay. All right, real quick. So this is the boring part of the stream, folks. That was the fun part. So, you know, we got one more fun video here from your boy Davey, showing us what a, you know, Russian ejection looks like, or a helicopter ejection looks like. Woo! Oh, that was trippy. Okay, so this is a simulation. I think it's a good simulation if it is. Okay, oh, here we go. That was real footage. So what happens here? Wow, so it explodes out and then bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Okay. Oh my God. Cool. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, we've reached... No, thank you, Davey. No, I think that stuff is really neat. All right, so we've kind of reached the boring part, but if you're into this debate, I feel out of respect for the lefties that are making very smart academic points about cluster munitions. I feel like I owe them a bit of you know, time to make their argument against cluster munitions. I've made the argument for cluster munitions, but also, like I said, these numbers worry me. If these things are just not effective against, you know, against troops and armor, then why are we using them? Why is it 92% civilians are harmed with cluster munitions, not soldiers, right? Why is it like that? Maybe it's 91.2, something like that. Over 90%. So I think we should let them use. I mean, the fact is, none of these countries have signed that agreement. So I think they should proceed. At the same time, I do think we should at least hear out the people that are disagreeing with cluster munitions. Basically, the rest of the world: Canada, UK, France. You know, all of them have signed this treaty to not use cluster munitions, to not create them, to not store them, right? So they don't have any to give Ukraine. All right, so let's hear it out, but this is like a half hour long. It's like 27 minutes. So if it gets just unbearable, I'll turn it off, right? But I like this. I just, at the very least, I wanted to, you know, see a full spectrum debate on Al Jazeera, right? So this isn't MSNBC. Oh, hey, oh, by the way, here's Mrs. Pentagon to give us the Pentagon POV. That's just what we needed to hear. Like we couldn't just fucking watch a press conference with, you know, Jen Psaki or whatever the fuck her next, you know, next person who was in there. You know what I mean? It's like there's no actual value to that statement, right? So here we have Al Jazeera, separate from the State Department, opinion debate about the situation. Let's hear it, and we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah, I'm sorry it's boring, and I'll kick up the speed if it gets unbearable. Okay, I understand you're Zoomers and you got to fucking jerk off and lick some ass or do whatever the fuck you got to do. But, you know, sorry, but, you know, sometimes we got to get into some, you know, deep weeds shit. Yeah, thank you, Panda Man. Yes, yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. Yeah, Al Jazeera is definitely going to have its own bias, probably, you know, against that. But I feel like we're going to have a more honest debate here than CNN or MSNBC. Like I said, doing a Skype interview with a representative from the goddamn Pentagon, right? So if that is unbiased, then, you know, what the fuck is this, right? So I don't know. Maybe it'll be a full blown, Allah Akbar, right? You know, I don't know. Let's find out.
Ukraine is to be supplied with cluster bombs by the U.S. That's despite a ban by many countries.
Runaway. Is that Runaway? Is that the one with
the United Nations says such weapons are against humanitarian law because they're indiscriminate. So, what's behind the U.S. decision?
Was that the one where he plays a hermaphrodite? Some edges for being critical of our disastrous intervention in Iraq. Really, Johnny Bananas, you're mad at them for being critical? Yeah. I know, they were proven so wrong about that.
Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Adrian Finnegan. War is a dirty business, but the decision by the US to supply cluster bombs to Ukraine has crossed a line that many of its NATO allies wouldn't.
So, and real quick before we get this clutch cargo, yeah, that's what I'm starting to worry. If they're running out of 155 already, and they're desperately sending whatever we have left in the warehouse while they're trying to make more, does that mean that this offensive is already basically effectively over, right? If you got to keep it moving, you got to keep it moving. Is it paused? You asked if I've never been in the military. Asked robot spiders run away. If I've never been in the military. Yeah, have you been? I don't know.
The UN says
you seem like you got a military look about you.
The US says it has no option but to send them to Ukraine because it's running out of conventional munitions. Both accuse Russia of using cluster bombs in the war.
All right.
So why is the US doing this now? We'll be discussing it with our guests in just a moment. But first, a report from Laura Khan.
These cluster bombs are considered so dangerous, they've been banned by more than 120 countries. But the US says they'll be included in a new military aid package to Ukraine. Neither have joined the convention banning their use, nor has Russia.
Mr. President, cluster munitions, why now?
We've run out of ammunition.
I gotta say, it's really badass when he does that. when he just answers in the most frank and stark way. I actually really like that about Joe Biden. He'll do this every once in a while. He'll just do a I'm a 90-year-old man and I don't fucking care anymore. I'm gonna tell you the answer.
Mr. President, cluster munitions, why now?
We've run out of ammunition.
Because they're fucking out of ammunition, Jack. Anyway, onto my ice cream fucking social.
So just how dangerous are they? The missile canisters contain hundreds of smaller bombs that spread out in the air. This means they are indiscriminate and can have a widespread and devastating impact. The International Committee of the Red Cross says as many as 40% of the bomblets fail to detonate and can pose a threat to civilians decades later. Human Rights Watch accuses Ukraine and Russia of killing civilians with cluster weapons.
The problem with cluster munitions is dud rate. Because these munitions drop large numbers of what are bomblets, depending on how they land, some of them don't go off.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak didn't directly criticise President Joe Biden, but did say that Britain does not support the use of the weapons in general.
The UK is signatory to a convention which prohibits the production or use of cluster munitions and discourages their use.
But the UK has itself been criticised for sending other weapons that can cause lasting environmental damage and serious illness for people long after the wars have ended. In March, it confirmed it would provide armour-piercing rounds that contain depleted uranium. First used by the US in Iraq in the first Gulf War 32 years ago, they've left a legacy of cancers and illnesses among people there and in other countries bombed by NATO.
It was a big scandal.
The international nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, says there could be a risk to people who handle fragments of depleted uranium. And a 2019 study in the journal Environmental Pollution linked the use of shells in the war in Iraq to a sharp rise in birth defects and cancer. The US says it must send cluster bombs now because Ukraine is running out of conventional weapons. But even some House representatives in Biden's Democratic Party have criticized the decision, saying the weapons will kill civilians and leave the US unable to occupy the high moral ground in the war by adopting tactics it previously accused Russia of using.
You know,
Laura Khan for Inside Story, Al Jazeera.
I mean, look, I talk about the moral authority all the time and how important it is. And it is very true. At the same time, I honestly don't see the international community giving a shit. You know why? Because I don't recall the international community making a single fucking peep about the cluster munitions that were already in fucking use on the battlefield in Ukraine. Is there a single goddamn comment from anybody? From any of the allies? Did NATO even say anything? Did Rishi Sunak with his fucking $1 million smile come out and be like, oh, I heard Russia's using cluster munitions. That's bad. Even just, as like a, op against Russia. Maybe they did. Maybe there's got to be some comment or something somewhere. I'm just saying, it seems to be like no one really does give a shit. Like it really does. You know what it feels like? It feels like the media and politicians are just going through the motions. You know what I mean? This is fucking just jerking a limp dick. Cluster munitions. Oh, we got to pretend to care. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we signed a thing 15 years ago. Yeah, okay, whatever. That's what it feels like to me. It's gonna be it feels like it's gonna be business as usual in like a week.
Well, let's take a look at the
Clutch
legacy
cargo,
left by cluster bombs. The United Nations says that in the last year it finalized a count, 2021, it recorded at least 360 casualties globally.
I'm sorry, where did they get this picture of fucking cluster munitions? Fucking Somalia? What the fuck? It's held together with fucking chain link fence and a goddamn rusty ass chicken wire. Are you kidding me? This is the nastiest fucking cluster bomb. You know what I mean? What? No way. Yeah, this is what the United States is using, dude. They're just literally, it's just like soaked in water. They just fucking throw it out. They just throw it out the goddamn, it doesn't have a delivery method. You just throw it out the window. What the fuck is this chain link fence? Well, thank you very much, Quick Double Tap, for being here. I mean, look at this shit. Is this even real? Or is this like something like at a museum or something?
Much higher figures are expected when the war in Ukraine is included. In the first 6 months of the conflict, 215 civilians.
Look, I think it's fair to say that it's a guarantee that X amount of civilians will be maimed or killed because of the use of cluster munitions by Ukraine. They can make promises all day and night, right? But I think that's what these numbers are showing us, is that it's civilian deaths are just, impossible to prevent. Yeah, thank you so much, Quick Double Tap. Very much appreciate it, yo. Props to QDT, baby. Those metal balls kill, but not by exploding, just hitting you in the head. It's like Beyblades and fucking Yu-Gi-Oh toys. Southern Ukraine's already a damn sea of landmines of all kinds. I mean, look, man, Clutch Cargo, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Okay, and I'm not going to sit here and be a lefty and be like, oh, well, and make some shitty argument. Well, it's already happening. And look, I think you have to acknowledge that. Like, if you're supporting war, if you're supporting Ukraine defending itself, if you're supporting Ukraine using these weapons, you have to acknowledge that. Yeah, okay, I'm not morally pure here. I'm okay with X amount of civilian deaths to win a war. Right, to defend your country, right? That's a hard. Zelensky has to make that fucking decision every single day, right? Why do you think he's starting to look like Gandalf the Grey over here, right? There's a good goddamn reason for it. And I'm so sick and tired of the neoliberal style lefty that wants to pretend like they agree with all the good things, but they don't agree with all the bad things. But we're just gonna, we're not exactly gonna disagree to the point of not doing it. We're just not gonna pay attention. We're just gonna put a blind eye, right? We're gonna do them, right? Torture, all this other shit, dropping bombs on kids and wedding parties like Obama did. But we're just not gonna talk about it. Ooh, ah. Right, so I'm really sick and tired of that neoliberal lefty comp-out attitude, right? Where, I just support all the good things, not all the bad things, though. I don't like those. I'm not going to change, though.
Civilians were killed and 474
Clutch Cargo, you're 100% right,
weapons. The cluster munition monitor used by the UN shows that most victims of cluster bombs are civilians. In 2020, it says they made up all casualties of such weapons worldwide. That year, nearly half of all casualties were children, where the age was known, at a quarter
Johnny Bananas,
were women and girls.
I think it's possible, though, that it's not impossible to say that, you know, after you know, those bomblets are dropped, a Ukrainian a Ukrainian soldier will get maimed from, you know, a dud that they kick with their feet while they're trenching through the tree line. But yeah, I think, look, if I'm a Ukrainian soldier and if these are actually effective and I would like to see some information on this. I would like to either see proof of their effectiveness or some weapons analyst that knows what they're talking about saying, oh yeah, no, I know the numbers are really nasty, you know, because they're primarily used against civilians and population centers to blow up buildings. But when they're used, you know, in a tree line filled with a trench, you know, and let me tell you, man, these fucking things are miracles. If you're boots on the ground and you want to have a safer tree line to enter, you want cluster munitions, right? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that these fucking things are actually going to help Ukrainians, you know, boots on the ground. These guys are at the front line, right? I want to make sure that this is actually going to help them.
The victims were people in countries where wars ended some years ago, such as Cambodia.
Right. Is this just a desperation move? Like
Iraq.
we're going to throw something into the gun? Let me tell you what.
Let's bring in our guests then for today's discussion. From Washington, D.C., we're joined by William B. Taylor, Executive Vice President at the U.S. Institute of Peace and a former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine. From Moscow, Dmitry Babich, Editor at Inosmi Internet Media Project. And also joining us from Washington, D.C., Sarah Yeager, Washington Director at Human Rights Watch. A warm welcome to you all. William, let's start with you first.
All right, here we go. I'm going to try not to interrupt.
In favor of the transfer of these weapons to Ukraine, as I understand it. Why is that?
So, Adrian, I'm in favor of the Ukrainians being...
The motherfucking United States Institute of Peace, and this guy's going on Al Jazeera to defend cluster munitions. This is what I'm talking about, man. The American hypocrisy. It's just like, dial it down a bit, okay? We're not that special.
Victorious over the Russians, that the Russians have invaded their country. I'm in favor of the Ukrainians having the ability to stop the Russian invasion. I'm in favor of the United States supporting Ukraine in its attempt to stop the Russian invasion.
Well, Lenny, I don't think the United States wants competent information about cluster munitions out there, right? You know, maybe they don't want the truth about how effective or ineffective that they are out there, right?
And the rest of NATO is joining in that effort. So I'm in favor of the Ukrainian victory. It turns out, as you've just reported,
thank you,
that the way that the Ukrainians can move to victory goes through artillery. They need artillery. And it turns out,
yeah, Johnny Bananas, exactly,
that the artillery rounds, the stocks, both in Ukraine and in the United States, are running out. That they are running out.
If that's true,
the Ukrainians are running out of the unitary
cluster munitions aren't going to fix that problem.
Ammunition. That is the non-cluster bomb. So the only thing that we have left to provide the Ukrainians to stop the Russian invasion and to push the Russians out of the country, out of Ukraine, are these cluster bombs. No one likes this. No one is.
Yeah, this isn't a really good excuse. What do we have like literally millions of them? You know what I mean? Because if we just have 20,000, 50,000, how many we got? It's not going to, is it already too late? You know what I mean? Like, honestly, like this is really actually troubling. If we're like, oh, we got to do it, we're running out of ammo. Is like, are we running out of ammo in a couple months? Is that where this is coming from, right? And they're trying to get ahead of it, right? Because it takes a long logistically to get this shit from point A to point B. Right? I don't know.
Comfortable with this decision. But if the decision is to allow the Russians to overrun Ukraine, which they have said they want to do, this is what the Russians are after, is to destroy Ukraine.
Oh my God, I almost spit on the fucking mic. 5.5 million. Okay, all right. God damn, okay, all right, okay.
And this is what they've said.
That's a lot.
If that's the choice, then we have to provide these weapons.
That's
I just
nuts.
want to play you, William, a clip of White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki speaking in the...
Well, Johnny Bananas, these aren't bullets, okay? Like artillery 155 millimeter. These are precision built. Like it takes some very, advanced metallurgy. It's a very specific combination of metals. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to interrupt. But it's not just bullets, okay? There is a process to it. With that said, we do know how to make these. We have the machines. We got the know-how. What the fuck's the holdup here? We should be cranking them out.
Early days of the war about cluster munitions. Here's what she said.
There are reports of illegal cluster bombs and vacuum bombs being used by the Russians. If that's true, what is the next step of this administration? And is there a red line for how much violence will be tolerated against civilians in this manner that's illegal and potentially a war crime?
It would be. I don't have any confirmation of that. We have seen the reports. If that were true, it would potentially be a war crime.
Yeah, wow. News at 11. United States is a massive hypocrite when it comes to military. Like, okay. You could sit here and be like, gotcha. Right. But no one fucking cares. It's all about, is the Western Alliance willing to put up with it? Is this too much for Germany? Is this too much for France? The answer is no. They just need to pretend to care.
William, if the potential use of cluster munitions in Ukraine by Russia is a war crime, the insinuation here is that rules apply to others and not to the US and its allies.
Yeah.
The rules apply to everyone, Adrian. You're no doubt about that. All the rules apply to us, the Ukrainians, to the Russians,
and he can say that because the U.S. hasn't signed on to it, Russia hasn't signed on it, Ukraine hasn't signed to it. No one's breaking any laws. I mean, technically these are war crimes, but they're not war crimes they're in the crazy world of international geopolitics. If you don't acknowledge that something is a war crime, it's not technically a war crime. It's complicated. But it's just so funny because this guy, if the United States had signed on to the cluster weapons munition, whatever, this guy'd be whatabouting and making all kinds of excuses. It's just so fucking ridiculous. Oh, it's all above board. It's all legal. It's all legal.
Everyone, there's no doubt about that. The question is how to stop this illegal, immoral invasion by the Russians of Ukraine.
That's a good point. Is it still a war crime if you use cluster? Well, I think lefties would say so, yes, because of the high rate, the high likelihood that once the battle is over and the military presence is gone from that area, civilians will still get hurt. So yeah, lefties would argue that even if these cluster munitions are being used against soldiers, because of the high likelihood that they're going to leave behind bomblets, that it is still a war crime to use them. Of course, have we ever seen a country make a pledge like Ukraine has made? Maybe, maybe that's actually a really normal thing to say, just to try and placate, the soft hearts or whatever, just placate the international community to say, oh, we're going to clean them up after we use them. So maybe everyone says that. But honestly, it really did feel like an honest and earnest promise to use them against military targets and track where we use them so that we can clean them up afterwards. But like I said, maybe that's just SOP and that's just how everyone does it. Maybe Syria did it, right? Like Assad's out here making a promise. I'll do everything I can. Like, yeah, right.
Ukraine. And
it's only a war crime you lose the war.
These weapons
I hate how accurate that is.
Banned by some countries, but not others.
Well, they're making them clutch cargo.
If that's the only choice, then I think we have that's a moral choice. It's a moral choice to support the Ukrainians in their defense against the Russian aggression.
Dmitry Babich in Moscow, what do you make of what you've heard so far?
Well, let's get the facts straight first. There was a Human Rights Watch report, I think back in the early 2015, maybe even in late 2014, that the Ukrainian troops used cluster weapons, and it was very well documented and confirmed. There were Human Rights Watch people on the ground who interviewed
all you need to do is replace Davey. All you need to do is replace cluster munitions with chemical weapons. It would be absolutely horrific and 100% a war crime. if Ukraine used chemical weapons against invading Russians on their own soil, right? So this whole idea that just because Ukraine is using them on their own soil, right, just because Ukraine is putting its own people into danger, that makes it okay. That seems like a pretty goddamn slippery argument, if you ask me.
Victims who showed the places where cluster bombs were used. Probably there were later reports of the use of cluster weapons by Russia, but first I didn't see them. I mean, I didn't see them in international news reports. There was, if they were, there were a lot was documented.
Yeah, Viceroy.
And also,
I mean,
let me remind you
I think
that
that's
in
an unavoidable fact.
These were not Russian troops who participated.
That's an unavoidable fact, but it's also we're in this ghoulish game of who's committing more war crimes, and I think it's very clear that Russia is obviously committing more war crimes. But the argument is that Ukraine really can't afford to have any kind of acceptance of war crime activity. Because this whole thing is hinging on international support for the project to be completed. So it's an interesting argument.
Participated in the war that started then and not in 2022, but these were the local insurgents, the so-called pro-Russian separatists, as the Kiev government called them. Let me again remind you that the government in Kiev came to power thanks to a violent coup in February 2014. So
what the fuck is this Russian apologist talking about? A coup in 2014? You mean the election that kicked out the fucking puppet? All right, I think I see where this guy's coming from.
Ukraine, as far as I remember, denied using cluster weapons, and Russia denied using cluster weapons. So we have this situation here when Ukraine definitely used cluster weapons, Russia probably, and now the United
Russia probably. No, Russia 100% used them on civilian populations, asshole. Dude, fuck off.
The States wants Ukraine to use cluster weapons on massive scale. That's terrible. I don't want to whitewash the Russian government. There is a big discussion
That's
going
exactly
on in
what
Russia
you're doing.
Whether it was worth it, to get involved in an all-out war.
Yeah, Johnny Bananas. Yeah, I think the restraint that Ukraine has already shown with the weapons that they've already been given shows that they are 100% okay with not attacking civilian targets, but also not using certain weapons, right? And I'm certain that when HIMARS or Storm Shadow missiles are used to attack weapons depots or fuel depots or airports in Russia on Russian territory, that there's permission given. So no, I think Johnny Bananas, I think Ukraine has shown that they can have restraint.
War in order to stop the bombing and the shelling of Donbass, which continued for 8 years.
Well, they had to, Davey. Yeah,
this is not
you
a
know
way
that.
To stop the violence.
This guy characterizing it as a violent coup. Fuck off,
again,
Dimitri.
I'm against using the term equalizing the chances, because how can you equalize the chances of both sides?
Shut the hell up, dude. Oh, maybe Russia used cluster weapons. Maybe that says everything about this guy.
Chemical weapons,
Move on.
I was going to ask you, Dimitri.
Thanks so much,
Dimitri. I was going to ask you: does this cross if Ukraine uses these weapons supplied by the US, does it cross a red line for Russia? Would it then, do you think, be justified in responding in kind? Does it give Russia to use does it give Russia an excuse to use weapons that are other kinds of weapons?
Yeah, there's video evidence
for humanitarian reasons.
Well, you said it, and even though no one in the Russian government said so far anything on that subject, I think that will be a logical consequence. I don't think the result will be the Ukrainian army pushing the Russians out of their land. Let me remind you that millions of people
pushing the Russians out of their land. What you talking about, Crimea? This guy's actually way more. This is one of the most slick Russian propagandists I've seen. Because he's presenting it in kind of an aw shucks kind of way, kind of a matter of fact kind of way. This guy's a bullshit factory.
Liaise their destinies, their lives with Russia.
Their destiny. Millions of people liaise their destinies, their lives with Russia. What an asshole.
In the last 8 years, in Crimea, in Donetsk, in Lugansk, these are.
We can't kick them out. They've married wives and they've taken over homes. We can't kick them out now. Clearly, it's intractable, and we just need to give Crimea over to Russia. Obviously, that's the only solution.
Russian people speak in Russian, and they will not
they didn't have
Ukrainian
a choice, jackass.
Future. So if the Ukrainian government returns to control over these territories, there's going to be a huge human tragedy. What is going on now is also a human tragedy. But
Viceroy,
Russia will
thank you
not
for that,
give up those
update.
territories. If Ukrainians use cluster weapons, Russia may also use some very destructive weapons, not necessarily nuclear ones, but some very destructive weapons in order to protect the people whom Russia considers its citizens.
Wow, this has nothing to do with those people, you fucking asshole.
People living in Donetsk.
Thank you so fucking much.
There, William, where is the threat to the people of Ukraine from Russia? It's not as life-threatening, is it, as the use of cluster munitions?
Adrian, the threat to the people of Ukraine from Russia is existential, literally. The Russian government, President...
We know where this guy's coming from. I want to hear what the woman has to say here.
It's recognized by the world.
Sarajevo, what's Human Rights Watch's position on this?
Here we go.
Sure.
Yeah, this ought to be good. This ought to be good. So the first guy's defending the U.S. use and Ukraine use. The other guy is obfuscating and gaslighting about Russia not using them and trying to claim that it's Ukraine's fault and Ukraine's using them and they're blah 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 blah. So let's hear from the adult in the room.
Thanks for having me. And let me just say, I deeply respect Ambassador Taylor, and I agree with most of the things that he has said today, except that cluster munitions are going to make the difference in this conflict. That has not been proven. It is very hard to see exactly the military utility because the Pentagon has not shared its data either on dud rates or the effectiveness of these weapons.
Interesting. Wow, I feel like a smarty. So right off the bat, she's pointing out the questions that I'm having about, well, do these fucking things even work? We have 5-point-something million of them, though? Maybe. That's a lot, bro. That's a fucking lot. Surely we could blow something up with them.
Against the Russian threat. And there are two big problems that I see. One is humanitarian. There is no way to make these weapons harmless. Absolutely no way. And we have already documented Ukrainians using cluster munitions. We just put out our findings earlier this week that Ukrainian civilians have already been killed by Ukrainians using cluster munitions. Again, there's no way to make these harmless. And second, there is a global norm being broken here. The majority of the globe's nations have banned these weapons specifically because they are too dangerous for the battlefield. I am worried both about what is going to happen in Ukraine.
Dangerous weapons are good for the battlefield.
And what is going to happen on this?
Yeah, I know, Viceroy. I know. Like, what the fuck is she talking about?
So, are there any circumstances that would justify the use of cluster munitions in your view?
I don't believe so. They are inherently indiscriminate. And this argument that Russia is using cluster munitions with a very high dud rate, the argument that Ukraine should use cluster munitions as well is a race to the bottom. And I'm very concerned about that, including for Ukrainian civilians.
I want to hear from a soldier. That's the opinion I want to hear. Does anyone have a soldier's POV on cluster munitions? Like, oh yeah, we were hitting the tree line. They threw in some cluster munitions on these guys, saved my fucking life. Or yeah, they were using cluster munitions, didn't hit shit. Oh, I almost got my leg blown off by one of them. Didn't help us at all. Right? That's who I want to hear from, because yeah, it's like, oh, they're indiscriminate. Yeah, this is war. Why do you think we drop? Why do you think we fire artillery shells that drop a bunch of mine bomblets across an open field? That's how this works. Meanwhile, Russia using phosphorus and cluster munitions. Yeah, and also I am noticing, True Sponge, welcome back, that she has not mentioned that Russia has been using them. She has mentioned only exclusively that Ukraine is using them. I'm not saying bias quite yet, but maybe Panda Man was right that Al Jazeera might not have been the best choice.
they continue to kill and pollute, often years after they've been deployed, regardless of which side prevails in this conflict. Someone is going to have to deal with the long-term human and environmental impact, or leave large tracts of land.
That's a good point, Clutch Cargo.
I mean, who's that going to be? I mean, who is responsible for?
I mean, but are they useful as like things to terrorize civilians, or are they useful actually in, you know, trench warfare, which is what we're dealing with here in this conflict, right?
Clearing up.
The United States is the largest donor to demining efforts around the world, and because it used cluster munitions and anti-personnel landmines in various places around the world, is giving a lot of money already. Because
interesting argument, fiscal one against cluster munitions. I like it.
Of the unexploded ordnance, these duds that are all over Ukraine, it is $73 billion to clean them up. That is without the U.S. cluster munitions being sent. So this is going to be a massive, expensive cleanup effort. And President Biden is going to have to address this when he goes to Vienna and talks with the European nations.
You know what the military-industrial complex hears when it hears something like that? The fucking cash register. That's what it hears. Oh, great. That's another reason to give us a shitload of money so we can clean up after we fucked it up, right? Military industrial complex isn't worried about that.
About reconstruction, rebuilding, and the money that it's going to take to clean these up.
Ambassador Taylor, I know you want to come in there. The US dropped an estimated 260 million cluster munitions in Laos between 1964 and 1973. So far, fewer than 400,000, or 0.47%, have been cleared, and at least 11,000 people have been killed, according to Reuters. These weapons pose a far...
Okay, what? So, in 1970 so far, fewer than 400,000, or 0.04%, have been cleared. So not even 1% of the bomblets. I mean, okay, who's doing the counting? How do we know? How do we tell? How do we know? Who's doing these numbers? It seems, how do we quantify this?
And at least 11,000 people have been killed, according to Reuters. These weapons pose a far greater threat to civilians than they do their intended military targets, don't they? There's a reason why so many nations refuse to use them.
Is that because they're used against civilians, or is it because that they're just shit against soldiers?
Adrian, again, no one wants to use these weapons. Everyone would like to.
Oh, my God.
That's about the cleanup. Yes, there will have to be cleanup. Yes, the unexploded ordnance.
Okay. You're not going to talk about this less than 1% cleanup rate?
Have to be cleaned up. It turns out, Adrian, as you well know, that the mining that the Russians have done is extensive up and down the line.
And now we're whatabouting. Whatever.
Down the lines in Ukraine that the Russians have planted. They'll all have to be dug up.
Okay.
The United States is preparing to and has already provided. Has provided the demining capabilities. We will provide more.
Yeah, but we could save money if we just don't use them.
Sure. The Ukrainians are working on demining capabilities. They're going to have to be cleaned up. All of those 10 million anti-tank mines up and down the line are going to have to be, and at the same time that they're cleaning up the anti-tank mines and diffusing them, they will be cleaning up the cluster munitions that are the duds that are still there. By the way, the dud rate of the Russian mine, the Russian cluster munitions.
Yes, it's much higher. Yes, we know.
Desperation. Dmitry, Russia says the transfer of these cluster munitions to Ukraine smacks of desperation. What does it tell us about the conflict itself? The fact that, as we heard from Ambassador Taylor there, Ukraine is running out of conventional military weaponry, ammunition, and which side, if either, is able to gain some sort of advantage militarily?
We're really the good guys.
Well, I think the best solution here would be a compromise. Unfortunately, it's the United States and the European Union who do not...
Isn't that great? Isn't that fucking great? They roll in, they occupy, and then they're like, you know, we should compromise. Can't we all just get along? You know, you should let us take 1/4 of your country, and then we'll stop. Well, you know, then it's all good for the rest of time. You know, isn't this great? That is so adorable. Thank you so much for the follow, Ribbons.
not want a compromise in Ukraine. They have shipwrecked the negotiations that were going on in Istanbul last year in March, and we were very close to a compromise with Ukraine.
Big time, super close to a compromise. You know what the fucking compromise is? Give us Kherson, give us Donbass, give us the fucking Crimea. Right? They don't even talk about Crimea because they just assume it's Russian. Right? It's not even on the table. So let's not even talk about Crimea. Oh, and by the way, you need to sign something that says you're never going to join NATO as well. You got to give us that assurance. That's their fucking compromise. Right? A total victory. Oh, the U.S. totally shipwrecked it. Oh, we were so close to a real compromise. My ass. I'm closer to my ability to fly than there was a fucking compromise.
It did not presuppose Russia running over Ukraine or wiping Ukraine off the map. Certainly, Putin never said it. Putin said that he wanted to make Ukraine secure for Russia. He wanted Ukraine to be demilitarized and
all he wanted was Ukraine to sign a paper that says you're not allowed to defend yourself. Give us your weapons. You're not allowed to use weapons against us.
Nazified. This is the exact quote. He didn't want to.
He just wanted to denazify Ukraine. What is wrong with that?
Destroy Ukraine as a country. He probably means that he wants to destroy the Ukrainian regime, even though he didn't go as far as saying that.
This guy motherfucking puts a spit shine on a pig, dude. This is amazing.
As for the future, as for the perspectives,
okay, David,
let me tell you that, of course, it's a sign of desperation because the United States Congress prohibited sending U.S.-made cluster weapons to other countries. There was no waiver. It does seem like a desperate move. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. So if we believe the Washington Post, for example, President Biden is in fact somehow maybe even making an extensive use of his presidential powers. To me, this shows that the United States has become an ideological state, just like the Nazi and the communist ideological states in the past. Oh, come on. Are we really sitting here? Okay, is this guy is the fucking host of this fucking debate gonna really sit here and let this guy fill our ears with fucking manure like this? Really? But in totalitarian states, ideology goes before the law. The main thing for the ultra-liberal ideology, which is now reigns in the United States and the European Union, is to have Ukraine as a victor. They don't care about the losses. They don't care about the Ukrainian people. They want Ukraine to win, as they say.
Says a representative of the architect of Bucha and the destruction of Bakhmut and many other towns. Ukraine has yet to target a civilian intentionally in this entire 500 days. You know, some missiles have been shot down, right? But Ukraine has never fired a missile directly at a civilian. Russia does it every single day.
So that's why they're ready to bend the rules, breach the laws, to send the most destructive weapons. They just want to see their side win. As for Russia, of course, we're very, very unhappy about this. We're very unhappy about the need to put landmines. Certainly, President Putin didn't.
Thank you so fucking much. Honestly, can we fucking move on from this ghoul? No pushback.
Once again,
no pushback. This isn't a debate. This is a fucking travesty. No pushback on that? Come on.
Program war is a dirty business, Sarah. And as we heard in our report, depleted uranium used by the U.S. in Iraq in the first Gulf War 32 years ago has left a legacy of cancers and illnesses among people there and in other countries bombed by NATO. Ukraine.
Okay, look, I'm going to call it. Panda Man was totally correct. This is a very skewed. You know what I mean? This is pretty fucking skewed. Anti-West set up here. I'm not going to sit here and deny it. You know, I'm not a goddamn Uncle Sam, booster, or anything like that. But come on, man.
Also been using British-supplied weapons that contain depleted uranium. Is Human Rights Watch concerned that the people of...
It's fair game. DU is fair game. We used DU. We didn't give a shit. We, poisoned thousands of people. We don't care. So DU is fair game. It's a fair comparison.
In Ukraine and Russia will suffer in the same way as people in Iraq have done.
We don't have any research on depleted uranium at the moment, so we can get into that a little bit later. Let me just make two
Human Rights Watch doesn't have any research on DU? That's actually shocking to me.
quick comments about what's been said. First, President Biden actually made this decision and signed a waiver completely within the rule of law within the United States. It's a shame that he did because Congress thought that these weapons were far too dangerous to send anywhere and made a prohibition against transferring them to any weapon. President Biden, within the law, signed a waiver, and it basically just says, we're going to prohibit these except when we really need them. And I think that that's really unfortunate. I also just want to go to this dud rate because everyone is talking about what the Pentagon has reported about the dud rate. We actually have, Human Rights Watch has done a bunch of research and has Pentagon reports going back to the 2000s that actually have a 14% dud rate on these very weapons. Now, perhaps there are variants that the Pentagon is looking at, but they
that ain't
have
bad.
not provided
That's more
any
realistic.
data. So within our democracy, there is no transparency about.
So that's, if there's 1,000 in there, that's less than 100. That's still, each one of these things can blow your goddamn legs off.
Where these numbers are coming from. And so to repeat them, that
It
there is
is.
a 1.5%
It's
dud rate,
penetrative. That's why you use it.
We're hearing these variations. Every answer is different. Where were they tested? On what kind of ground? In what kind of circumstances? We're not getting any of those answers. And I think that that is a real problem in this case.
Well, that's intentional.
Okay. Ambassador Taylor, William, I just want a very quick thought from you, if you want to.
I'm not good at math.
Given that you fought in Iraq about this use of depleted uranium.
Thank you, David.
And then most members of
Not a
NATO
math
have signed
wizard.
up to this international ban on cluster munitions. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that the alliance didn't have a formal position on their use on the battlefield, and that the decision on their use would be down to individual countries. I mean, what are we to make of that? That there's no unity among an alliance on the use of weapons that many members find abhorrent and have pledged not to use?
The Secretary General is exactly right. NATO as an organization doesn't decide on weapons. Individual countries, individual members do. We've not heard any condemnation from NATO members of this decision. Why? Because they recognize it's a hard decision. They recognize that they don't like these weapons. We don't like these weapons. The Congress doesn't like these weapons. The Defense Department doesn't like these weapons. But they all recognize that the alternative, that is no artillery rounds for the Ukrainians.
Okay, I mean, if that's true, then that's really that's indicative that, okay, so the whole offensive is winding down, right? Cluster munitions are not going to make up this deficit. They're not going to one-to-one replace it. So that tells me right there, if that's true, that tells me right there that this offensive is winding down. You can't. What are you going to do? You're just going to have to hold your ground. Reduce the amount of shells that you're using so that you can start, building defenses and hardening your lines, and holding on to your gains. I mean, it is desperate. If this is true, then this is desperate, man. What are we talking here? What's the timeline, right? How many weeks do we have left before, how many weeks of 6,000 artillery shells a day do we have left? It's not only Ukraine. All right, well, that doesn't change anything in terms of Ukraine being able to, it needs artillery to move forward. It's not, Ukraine is not stupid enough to just send guys in there. Maybe, I certainly hope not. And we're, because we would see the casualty rates, skyrocket on Ukraine's side if they did that.
Is unacceptable. It's unacceptable morally, militarily, politically. It makes no sense to have the Ukrainians run out of weapons and not be able to defend themselves against the Russians that are invading their country. So the NATO members, they don't like it. We don't like it. However, they recognize, and they by their statements, they recognize that it's an individual decision by the Americans. Sarah's exactly right. The president used the waiver that's in the law.
They just cut the Russian guy out. Love it.
He doesn't like it. President Biden said he doesn't like this decision.
Okay, who cares? Who cares what Biden feels?
And if the alternative
That's
is
a good
to let
point,
the
Davey.
Russians overrun the Ukrainians, he's not going to let that happen.
Yeah, maybe, Lenny.
William,
maybe
we've got about a minute left. Is there anything you want to say about the use of depleted uranium? I know we're talking about cluster munitions, but the use of depleted uranium in that region of the world right now.
I have nothing to add to what Sarah said.
Okay, all right. Dimitri, we'll leave the last word to you then. Bear in mind, I've got
why?
about a minute left on the program, so I
Why?
need you to give me a fairly concise answer on what you've heard from our Washington guests in the last few moments.
This ought to be fucking good. Here's a little sample.
Well, I would just say that, look, our opponents, they're planning to use cluster weapons. They're planning to use depleted uranium. How come they're for peace? How come they're defending democracy by such means? The same goes about the Ukrainian government. If they destroy monuments, if they cancel holidays, if they destroy religion, maybe they are the occupiers. Maybe they occupy.
Wow, dog. Wow. Wow. What a fucking shit. And there's no pushback. Silence. Fucking silence from this guy, dude. Wow. Fuck Al Jazeera. Fuck this guy and fuck the host of this show, dude. What the fuck?
By this country, where they change all the traditions.
Yeah,
all the
rules. It's just like that Bill Hicks bit, right? Like, if you watch the video in reverse, it looks like they're helping the guy up instead of beating him to death.
Maybe not us, but they are the attackers.
Yeah, maybe.
And there, I'm afraid we're going to have to edit, as always.
You suck, dude. You fucking suck. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Laugh at this man. Fuck you, dude. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? That was pathetic. I thought, man, I should have watched that beforehand. I thought that was going to be, some kind of, debate. That was embarrassing. That sucked. I'm sorry I put you through that. I'm fucking wasted your time with that one. Wow. What a pile of crap. Let's get to Davey's video here before I call it a day. But yeah, this is, thank you very much, Davey, for providing this. Maybe, I'm going to do some more research. Maybe I can find a video. I just want to hear from a soldier who's like, before we went in there, they saturated the place with cluster bombs and it was fucking rock on, right? Half the guys were dead before we even walked in there. We love them, right? That's what I want to hear. I just want to hear from somebody who's actually, sees the effectiveness of it, But so let's hear. This is a journalist who was in the vicinity or maybe being attacked directly by cluster munitions. So let's hear what this is here. This is by Russian cluster munitions, right? These old Soviet ones. Jesus. Wow. Yeah, they can. Panda-man. Fuck, dude. They just keep coming.
Okay. Машина сіла, да, все добре.
Wow, they just keep coming.
Да.
Oh my god, fucking nausea warning, sorry.
Давай.
Was that a piece of shrapnel?
I don't understand honestly what it was, because it's not typical sound, like not artillery, not sounds of the shell, something strange, yeah. And in a few moments, I realized it was like cluster munition, and the explosion was fiercely far from me, and after that, like closer.
Closer.
And then around me and around car and around my son, it was like hell in few seconds.
Wow.
Like around you exploded all area, and it just sound, just waves, just pieces of something in the air, and you just lie down and like thought about not maybe personal safety, about what's my son do now, what's with him, like, and it was really crazy. After the wave of explosion, I tried to stand up and go to my son position, but probably this like cluster munition also have timers, like and I just stand up and new explosion, lie down.
Wow.
Just stand up, one explosion, lie down. Just stand up, explosion, lie down.
Sounds like if you're a soldier, they're, I don't know. It sounds like a fear weapon. You know how white phosphorus, it's not killing a lot of people. It's just scaring the shit out of people. And it makes the battlefield like, it changes the battlefield, makes it, inconvenient. So maybe it's more of a hindrance weapon, right? When you're hitting a trench, you're scaring the shit out of them, confusing them. Yeah, everything's good, dude. Yeah. I need to go buy some new pants, but so Panda Man was asking, okay, what kind of damage do these do to vehicles? And yeah, it's not like a HIMARS, right, that just blows it the fuck up, but it can disable vehicles. You get these fragments in the engine, in tires. It's not exactly going to blow up a vehicle, but it can disable a vehicle. You can see here, shatter the windows, holes into right through the wheel well into the engine. Not sure if the truck is still running there.
And this cluster munition is like really huge amount of the Russian strategy. For them, it's very easy to use at long distance, and it's safe for Russian army.
That guy saying, "Oh, maybe Russia's using them." I don't know, maybe. Oh, by the way, Ukraine's using them all the time. Oh, I don't know, maybe once in a while you'll do it.
And at the same time, it's very effective.
Hey, Zia, welcome back. Yeah, go ahead and pick that up with your fucking bare hands, bud. I think the plan might be to cut supplies to take the rain down clusters them day and night till they leave. Yeah, if U.S. has 5.5 million of them, look, maybe they're less accurate, but if you're firing double the amount, if you're just over and over just dropping thousands of bomblets on a location, I don't care who you are, dude. That's gonna fuck with you. That is gonna fuck with you big time. All right. God, I don't know. I was hoping to have a better I was hoping to have like a better I was hoping to have a more clear opinion on cluster munitions after this, and that Al Jazeera debate did not do that for me. It just pissed me off. An unexploded is at least not designed to blow up when touched like a mine. Oh, it's not. Oh. Okay. All right. I don't know. What do you think? Do you agree? Has anyone's here's the question. Has anyone's mind been changed? Has anyone's mind been changed? Is anyone pro cluster munitions and they weren't? Or is anyone, anti cluster munitions and they used to be pro? No, yeah, Davey, no, yeah. My mind hasn't been changed. You can't, there's no such thing as fighting a war, defense or offense. There's no such thing as fighting a war without civilian casualties. Most armor can drive right over those unexploded submunitions, little clusters. It's really anti-personnel. It's not. I guess it depends on the cluster munition. I'm sure there's cluster munitions that's like anti-armor cluster munitions, but it sounds like the United States has quite a variety, man. They got quite a fucking plethora. I have my fingers in my ears and my eyes shut. You might be the smart one, Lenny. You might be the smart one. That's my problem, though. Getting back to what I was saying, that's my problem, is that there is no, I don't know what Human Rights Watch is smoking, but there is no war, defense or offense. There is no war without civilians getting killed. I guess the argument would be, well, yeah, that's true, but shouldn't we try to do everything we can to reduce them? And it's like, well, the cold hard fact is that yes, you do that to a certain extent, considering how effective the weapon is, and of course the concept of escalatory actions, right? Because maybe chemical weapons are really effective, at clearing a trench. Maybe, I don't know if they are, but maybe chemical weapons are really effective, but obviously we can't use them for a myriad of reasons. But this isn't chemical weapons. Looks like a damn good way to harass guys in a tree line. I mean, could you imagine? You're in a tree line, you're in a trench, and an hour or two goes by of literally just constant boom, 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 boom. Just hours and hours of that. Where's the sport going? Is it clear yet? Who does time favor? Time favors Russia. But the Ukraine is winning, is consistently winning battle after battle, and consistently gaining kilometer after kilometer after kilometer of territory back. So they're winning these fights. But Putin at the very least is waiting until the 2024 U.S. presidential elections, I think, before he's going to make any kind of major decisions one way or the other on the Ukrainian war. And yeah, we should end the stream by congratulating Sweden. Okay, thank you for the DMCA. No, we can't do that. All right, hold on. Let me play my own music to this so it's not just fucking muted. This song's too dramatic. What are we doing? Here we go. This song's too fucking dramatic. There we go. Congratulations, Sweden, on entering NATO's sweet embrace. Get to enjoy that NATO protection now, that NATO guarantee. Welcome to the club. Switzerland, Sweden. Where's those? Finland and Sweden. Finland and Sweden. Welcome to the motherfucking club. Hey, thank you, Putin. You want to blame somebody? Blame Putin. You got a problem with NATO? You got some good arguments against NATO? Tell your daddy Putin. All right? Good luck criticizing NATO in the next 10 years. Fuck you, murder comp. But no, good luck criticizing NATO in the next fucking 10, 20 years. Man, fuck that NAFO shit, dude. But it's like, I'm a lefty who still wants to criticize NATO. It's fucking impossible. It's fucking impossible. Right? Oh, you want to talk about, being aggressive towards Russia. No one wants to, fuck you. No one cares. Oh, cry me a river, right? NATO 100% correct about Russia. Yeah, no, it's going to be happening. I've seen a lot of chatter about special exemptions, about expediting. I think there's already been a paper or a document signed that says, that's basically putting Ukraine in the same situation as Taiwan, that, okay, they're not an official member, but if they get fucked with, we're still going to defend them. So it's all a matter of time. And look, you lefties, commies that want to shit on NATO, rightfully so. There's a lot to shit on. NATO is an obvious extension of the military-industrial complex of the United States. Are we fucking kidding ourselves? Look at the funding. Look at their actions. But guess what, lefties? Guess what, commies? NATO 100% retroactively correct about Russia after the Cold War, right? All this talk about, oh, you're being hyperbolic. Oh, you're being escalatory. You're being aggressive, putting missiles on the Polish border and bases set up. And how dare you? Like you're not even being honest actors. But no, the whole time, NATO and the military-industrial complex of the United States saw that Russia was being a bad actor. Saw that Russia was not being honest about, we're de-escalating, so you need to de-escalate. They saw, they were obviously, they're paying more attention, right? What do you want me to say here? NATO 100. I look, I'm eating crow here. NATO 100% correct on Russia. Are they wrong? Were they wrong? What are they wrong about? Right? Because the whole worry is that Russia is going to, try to take territories that are not members of NATO, right? In a bid to expand their territory and influence. That's exactly what they're doing. So good luck criticizing NATO anymore, and you can blame Daddy Putin for it, right? This crazy fucked up world. It's crazy fucked up world, right? Because especially in the 80s and 90s, the Bill Clinton, era, there was a big argument against NATO. It was and it was really had some great arguments. It's all out the window, dude. Fuck, high fives to the military-industrial complex. Discount war and they're kicking ass. NATO never been stronger. Uncle Sam looking like a goddamn hero after Iraq and Afghanistan completely falling apart. It's a crazy fucking world we live in. But anyway, Garbage Fuel Awards goes to every goddamn motherfucker in this chat. True G's. Drinking that garbage fuel every single day. Garbage Fuel would like to thank you for your intelligent participation in the chat room. Zeo Duke, Murdercom, Lenny, your boy Lenny, Davey, Clutch Cargo, and yeah, Panda Man, you behaved yourself today. You get yourself some props. Thank you, Panda Man. Johnny Bananas, loving Johnny Bananas over here. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for that follow. Nickname, thank you for coming back. Motherfucking Nickname over here. Woo! Nickname doing coke all day. We all know you're addicted to cocaine, Nickname. Clearly. I'm just going to start rumors about random people in the chat. Viceroy, thank you so much for your comments, Viceroy. Big props to you. I'm literally just going to start rumors and Davey used to be fucking, like a gigolo. Did you know this? Davey told me in private, he used to be a gigolo for a bunch of really high-end private, 60-year-old clients. Davey kind of a stud over here. Big props to True Sponge. Thank you, True Sponge, for coming back. It's good to see you, bud. Thank you for coming back. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, your boy, Quick Double Tap. He had to go, but thank you, Quick Double Tap, for coming in. Thank you so much, Quick Double Tap, for coming back. Love to see these OGs back in the chat. Kissing Gonzo. Thank you, Kissing Gonzo. China. Thank you, China. Thank you, Kissing Gonzo. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, T-Rex Sore Ass. Thank you, T-Rex Sore Ass. Appreciate it. That was a very funny Twitch name, T-Rex Sore Ass. What? Yeah, Davey. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to dox you. Try Garbage Fuel. So it is literally the last drink you'll ever fucking consume. I guarantee it. Did I behave? Just got here. You did not behave. You called me a fucking neocon the moment you walked in here. Or a neoliberal. That's even worse. What'd you call me? What'd you call me? Neocon? That's what you call me, isn't it? Calling me names, dude. It's actually illegal to make fun of me. Davey doesn't even know what a fucking gigolo is? Oh, no. Okay. Yeah. Gigolo, male gigolo. That movie's terrible, dude. Rob Schneider featuring Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider has sex with a penguin. What's Rob Schneider getting up to? It's half 2 here. Oh, I forgot. Was that the conversation where you told me you have a massive foot fetish? What? No! I didn't know.
Shut the fuck up.
I don't love, petite, clean, dainty, porcelain white feet in my mouth. I hate that. Shut up. Anyway, Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Glory to the Ukrainian democracy. We're going to keep kicking ass, and I'm going to keep covering the story. 500 days in the war. Let's hope we can do this. Let's hope the rumors about, maybe this ammo shortage isn't as bad, or I don't know, man. But let's try to keep up hope. Because this is a fight worth fighting for. This is a fight for democracy. Don't forget my 3-step program to create political change. Step 1, inform yourself. Step 2, join a progressive political organization in your area. I said progressive, and I meant it. Step 3, put in some goddamn work in that organization. All right? Donate some time. Ask yourself, what am I doing for the movement to stop fascism in America? That's what you need to be doing. All right, folks. It's good seeing you. It's good talking to you. We're going to do this again. I wish I could play hooky every day. I could play hooky every day if you, I don't know. I should probably have a way for you to donate before I start shaming you for not giving me money, huh? Okay, I'll work on that. As soon as, boy, you're going to hear from me. As soon as I get an actual way for you to give me money, I'm going to shame you. I don't do this for free, okay, guys? Thank you, Zio Duke. Thank you, Lenny. Next stream, probably Wednesday. Do an update on Wednesday. If I have time, if the kid's going to let me, if work is going to let me, we'll see. All right, everybody. Peace out, motherfucking Middle East. Yeah, get your Chex Quest CD today, baby. Chex Quest blankets in the merch store. Chex Quest blankets in the merch store. Lenny told me his dog loves his Chex Quest blanket. Dogs approve of the Chex Quest blanket, all right? Pick it up today in the merch store. Welcome back, Semi-Aquatic Oompa Loompa. Sorry we caught you at the very end. This car is awesome, dude. Look at this. Yeah. All right, folks. Absolutely. Lenny. Check out Lenny's channel. Accidents Waiting to Happen. Get on YouTube. All right. Peace out, y'all. Thank you so much.